What's going on, guys? This is Brain from Advancement Hockey Advising here, and today we have another interview here on our hands, and it is Coach Dan Mays. I think you guys are really going to like this one. Coach Mays was actually my coach at Trine University for 2 years. From my experience, and this is not just me saying this, he's honestly probably the best coach I've ever had. Very solid character, as you guys will see, good hockey mind, and honestly just a great coach overall, great person. And it's going to be a pleasure for you guys to listen to him, because every time I talk to him, I always learn something. I always get some value out of the conversation. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this, and hopefully you guys get a lot of value out of this. Before we dive into it though, as always, just a quick reminder to absolutely smash that like button. And if you haven't already, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. All right, guys, let's dive right into it here with Coach Mays. All right, Coach Mays, good to have you on the show here. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Braden. How you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. So excited to have you. So I guess we can just start here and maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your hockey career, and then your coaching career as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in Downriver, Detroit, about a half hour south of Detroit, and played most of my hockey in the Detroit area growing up. When I was a senior in high school, I ended up going to Toledo, Ohio, and playing travel hockey there, and played my junior hockey career with Toledo Cherokee. That was back before there was an NA3 or USPHL. It was the Central States Hockey League. It was Junior B. That was when the North American League had probably close to 12 teams. Just a different landscape than it was today. And so did that for a couple of years, and then went to Eastern Michigan University and played for 4 years, and was able to represent our country here in the U.S. with at the World University Games. And after playing there, I started helping out a local high school in Monroe, Michigan, St. Mary's Catholic Central. And we had a pretty good team, and ended up getting to the kind of the Frozen Four for Michigan high school, if you will. And I got the coaching bug, with our team success. And, I was just an assistant coach, and really that's when it kind of hit me that I wanted to do this, was for a living. And, and then I kind of went into the Detroit AAA market, coaching U18 and U16 at Honey Baked. Wanted to get some head coaching experience, so I was with U14 Little Caesars, coached a really good group with the 2000 age group. That group in Detroit was really good. We're watching some of those players right now in the NHL. A lot of Fridays and Saturdays. A bunch of those players are playing NCAA Division I, and so that was a great learning tool for me. Wanted to get into the college game, and had an opportunity to be a volunteer assistant with Bowling Green State University there in Bowling Green, Ohio, and worked with some great people there and great players there. And then got an opportunity at Trine University to help start the men's program, and was head coach of our ACHA team there, and helped out a bit with our NCAA Division III. And then 2 years ago, there was an opportunity with the Pittsburgh Penguins organization on the amateur side to be their U18 prep coach. Took that opportunity, and it's been great. It seems like, at least in my coaching career, every kind of step I've taken, not so much. I don't think I thought it out so well, but it's kind of helped me fill holes in the different, fill some holes in my coaching. And I've been really fortunate to work with great people, great players, great families. So it's been a joy.
Awesome. Yeah. So do you I know you touched on it a little bit, but did you, I don't know, did you have a feeling you're going to go into coaching, or was it just a little bit accidental with the exposure and all that?
So when I graduated college, it was around 2008. And there was a bad financial crisis. So I did a couple corporate jobs and was laid off, got into coaching, tried a couple other things, but my heart wasn't in it. And it was really just that circumstance. I think if I would have out of college, stayed in that corporate job, probably ended up making too much money to where I
To get out of it.
wouldn't end up being able to just say, you know what, I'm going to, at 33 or 34, whatever age I was, I need Division I college experience, so I'm going to be a volunteer assistant. Like that probably doesn't happen if I wouldn't have been laid off. So it's just funny sometimes how life works out.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and it's working out pretty good for you now. You're doing quite well at the U18 level, so that's awesome. So speaking of that, so what like to have the success that you've had at the U18 level, at the college level too? What are kind of like the key values and the key habits that you really pride yourself on as a coach and for your team to follow as well?
So, I think it's really important. The way I kind of base, when I'm picking my teams is getting to know the players as much as possible. At the end of the day, I spend more time with the players than I do with my own wife and two kids. And so I really have learned over time that, yes, we want talented hockey players, but I want to be around people I want to be around, because there's good times, there's bad times, there's all the in between times. If you're not around people that, don't have the same values as you, or just, I don't want to say they're bad people, but just don't sync with how you think and feel, it can be a miserable existence,
Yeah,
even though, I'm coaching hockey, and to me, it's all about people. It's about being around good people, good families, and really understanding our goal here at the 18U level. Seems like people are in such a rush to get to junior hockey, to get that college commitment, and really it's sometimes people are getting those things too soon, and it's actually causing them to long term wise
yeah,
not progress as a hockey player. I want people that want to be here. I want people that I want to be around, and I want people that when there's some adversity, their first instinct isn't to quit the game of hockey or fold up a 10 or whatever. I want people that are resilient. And at the 18 level, our guys have all went through a lot of multiple drafts where maybe they didn't get selected or they've been cut from junior teams or whatever. And this age group's fun to coach because these are people that are highly motivated individuals
yeah.
that want to achieve a goal, and they've been knocked down a couple pegs already, and they're sticking with it. So that's kind of, I need to, through my process of just getting to know the players and the families, that they're gonna kind of fight through this, because this is kind of the beginning of, I don't want to say it's kind of the beginning of the end of their journey, as far as, there's a crossroads when you're 17 going into 18, and we just need to prepare these players to not only make junior teams, but go and be key contributors.
And a couple of things I want to unpack there. So first, I think I completely agree with you. You want to be, you want to have a team of guys that you really connect with. You have good chemistry, that you enjoy being around, right? You want to have a good attitude, good group of guys. It's so important, because I've been on teams where we had great skill, but it just didn't pan out because the group of guys just wasn't there. The chemistry wasn't there. And I've seen so many teams like that. I'm sure you have as well. So I think that's super important. The other thing too, like being able to deal with adversity, I think is probably the greatest life skill and skill a hockey player can have, in all honesty, because life's not easy. Hockey's not easy. I think hockey prepares you for that quite well. But I think, yeah, that dealing with adversity, having that resilience is so important. So let's kind of dive in more into resilience and adversity. How do players even go about adopting that? Like what do you try and promote as a coach to deal better with adversity and teach your players, if that makes sense at all?
I think with resiliency, it's, you have to go through things, and I think sometimes, and I have a 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I think sometimes, even myself as a parent, we want to always shield our children from from feeling pain, right? It's hard to see them go through that, and I think, for hockey parents, it's okay for them to get cut from a team. It's okay for them to go through things, to maybe get sat by their coach. A lot of people want accountability, but when it comes to their kid or the player itself, they don't really love it. and it's not easy to go through. I'm not saying it is, but I think at the end of the day, if you know that that coach cares about your son or daughter, it's okay for them to go through those lessons. And I think it's also important that make sure that they let their player know if there's a problem, with whether it's a question of playing time or power play or penalty kill or not knowing where you are as far as what the coach thinks of you. It's important for the parents to say, hey, listen, you could complain to me for 3 hours right now and we could talk bad about the coach or this or that. Or you could go to the source itself, go to the coach and have an adult conversation. I think those type of things are really healthy. I'm sure there's some old school coaches that are, not exactly approachable to go do that, but at the end of the day, I think it's important to try to at least reach out and do that because only the coach and the player can get through those situations, and usually the player needs feedback. And I can tell you as a coach, there's sometimes you get busy and maybe it's hard to communicate with every single player on your team exactly where they stand at every given moment. So I always welcome my players. A lot of people talk about an open door policy. But I really try to make sure all of my players are comfortable with coming in and having a true open door policy. And when we have that conversation, that doesn't mean I'm going to tell the player exactly what they want to hear and promise them the world or whatnot. But I think it's constructive to be able to give good, honest feedback. And I've tried over the years because, I found myself as a coach sometimes giving coach speak where I'd say, oh, you're playing good. It's, your line's not sinking, but it wasn't tangible feedback. So I've tried over the years to get better at giving tangible feedback.
Right.
Sometimes that feedback is well, if you want to be on the power play, if we have 2 units, you got to crack your way into that top 10.
So yeah, it's so true. I think it's so important to give honest feedback. It's tough. Sometimes I have trouble as an advisor giving my guys the honest feedback. But when guys call me and say, listen, I'm not getting ice time for this and that, I always tell them like most of the time, if not all the time, you have to look at yourself. Like there's a gap there in the skill that you have and what you need to be to really get that ice time and stuff. So I think it's important for players to look at that. I think, like you said, it's important for them to go through that kind of adversity, to go through challenges, to get cut. Sometimes, it's not fun. It's not fun by any means, but they learn to deal with that. By going through that. So I think that's very important. You were kind of talking about players coming to talk to you. Now, I've had you as a coach. You're a very approachable guy, so it's not scary coming to talk to you. But how about players that they want to go talk to their coach maybe not that approachable, maybe a little bit scary, maybe he's busy. How do players best go about going to talk to a coach about a problem like ice time or anything like that? How do they approach it so it goes the best way?
I think most teams have assistant coaches, and
That's a great point.
hopefully
Yeah.
no, but I think it's very important. A good assistant coach knows how to kind of walk that line,
Yeah.
always having the head coach's back, but being able to maybe deliver that message, maybe that the head coach's message that sometimes could be harsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like trying to when I was an assistant coach, I coached with a guy that he was a kind of a yeller and screamer, super intense, great guy. But I would try to let the player know the actual message without some of the roughness and bark that the head coach gave. So
Yeah.
they understood where the head coach and us as a coaching staff were coming from. So I
Yeah.
think it's super important having good people within your program as a coaching staff. And I tell my players all the time, if you're not comfortable with coming to me with something, you can, you're not going to cry on the assistant coach's shoulder. Like it's going to be the same thing, but it's totally fine to go with them. And I talk to my assistants as well as, hey, like we got to have a united front, on everything, but it's very, I think it's totally fine, for them to go to a different source. Again, not to sit there and, complain about the head coach or this, that, and the other thing, but to maybe get the actual message, in a less emotional way.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Going to the assistant coach is a great tactic that I always tell my guys all the time. Like before you take it up with the head coach, first of all, depends how bad the problem is, right? If it's a small problem, if you just got benched for like one period and then everything's fine, typically you don't have to address it. But if it's a recurring problem, then go talk to the assistant coach first, if you can, if they're approachable, and hopefully they can tell you what you need to hear the right way, so you hear it, and then you fix it and the problem gets solved. But if not, if that doesn't work, then go talk to the head coach. And I always tell guys, like, go there um, in a way that you can, better yourself to better the team. Really try and put the team first and ask the coach to be honest. And typically coaches 99% of the time they'll be honest with you if you're straight with them, if you ask them. So I typically think that's the best way to go about it. But I totally agree with your point. Go the assistant coach first. Absolutely. It's a great way to go about it. Um, Kind of moving in another direction now. So I'm thinking, a lot of people talk about leadership. So I kind of want to get your take on it. What's your definition of leadership, and how do you spot leaders in the room? What are the things you look for in leaders?
You know what? I think it kind of goes about their day to day, mode of operation, how they conduct themselves off the ice, on the ice, how their body language is, how they, for me, I value leaders and captains that again aren't going to necessarily tell me, everything I want to hear on any given day. I want people that have respect of the locker room, of their peers, the other players. And I want people that, if I ask them for feedback, whether it's practice, whether it's, how things are in the gym when I'm not around, how things are, how the mood of the room is. I want to know exactly how it is. So I think it's just people that can be a really good conduit, between the players and the coaching staff. And I really put a lot of value in what their teammates think of them. So I always do have the players, vote. I usually tell them, hey, like you're in these captains meetings. For the most part, you guys are going to have the biggest say in this. Who's going to be the captains of this team? If I don't like who you guys select, we'll do a revote. For the most part, I've been pretty blessed with really good teams and people, and the players get it right most of the time, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I agree with the concept of giving a vote too, because typically, the team knows who the leader is, and I think, like you said, the day to day, how people carry themselves, that's really what shows a good leadership. I think leading by example is the best way. Some guys do have a great voice and they can command respect that way. But I think the best leaders are the ones that day in and day out lead by example, show up on time, give it their all. And I think by doing that, that's what builds respect from all their teammates and from the coaching staff too. So I totally agree with you on that line. So what are, kind of moving aside too now, what are maybe like three things that people, like players, can work on? What are the, like, probably the top three things? I know it's different for every player, but maybe in general, top three things, whether it's on like a skill on the ice or off the ice, that players can work on to really help them succeed and potentially get to the college hockey level.
Yeah, I think, obviously there's, when you're talking the NCAA Division I level, there's a certain amount of skill level. Obviously hockey sense, skating is great.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I really concentrate with our players here at the 18U level that young players need to get better at as they progress through juniors is their play away from the puck. So that's something I think is huge, is finding those players that value that. When you don't have the puck, they work hard to get the puck back. And when they do have the puck, they're not just satisfied with, whether it's, they make one play, they're looking, for what that next play is.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. Ultimately, I think for players, what they don't understand is sometimes is the off the ice component is huge. These junior coaches and GMs, they're ultimately their jobs, their livelihoods are based on winning. I know everybody talks about development.
It's a business.
It's
At that
BS.
level, it's a business now. You
Yeah.
have to win. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, they have to win.
Yeah.
So they're going to look for players that conduct themselves. So, when you have coaches or scouts that are up above ice level watching you, the good ones are watching everything.
They know.
Listen, if you miss a breakaway, everybody in that rink understands you wanted to score that goal. Smashing your $300 stick into 5 pieces,
Oh God, I
it
talk about that
doesn't
all the time.
yeah, doesn't let people know that you care. Everybody knows that you care. So how one thing that I really, whether it's in practice, games, whatever, all players are making mistakes all the time in the game. Your teammates are going to make mistakes, and showing up your teammate by putting your hands up in the air. So a lot of it goes back to body language, because you're getting judged not only on what they're seeing there. They're judging the type of character you are, and you can show a lot of your character when adversity hits in a hockey game. And every single game there is mistakes made, adversity is happening. So those are things I think people can get better at, and it's controlling your emotions. Doesn't mean you don't care if you're not screaming the F word at the top of your lungs when there's a mistake made, or smashing your stick, or kicking the boards, or whatever,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I tell my guys all the time, smashing the stick, negative body language altogether. It doesn't accomplish anything, and it just makes you look bad, honestly. And it can bring the morale of the team down as well. If the team's in the zone and you start smashing your stick, people lose focus sometimes. So I see it all the time, honestly. And you always see these things, not when things are going well. You see it when adversity hits, which dealing with it, coming back to dealing with adversity, super important, right? But yeah, showing good body language, because like you said, the good coaches, they notice everything, and they notice how you carry yourself after you miss the breakaway, how you carry yourself when things go good, when things go bad. So very important to be a good person overall, and to carry yourself well. And I also think to play away from the puck is also extremely important. Totally agree with that as well. And then the last quick question I got for you here is, what's like one last piece of advice that you'd like to give players and parents out there that are going through the journey to go play college hockey one day?
yeah, I think, ultimately, as far as we know, we get one life to live, right? And if this is something you want to do, if hockey is a passion for you, the great part of there are so many avenues in college now, whether that's NCAA Division I, Division III, ACHA. There's so many schools, and what I would say is not to discount any of those. I think sometimes, and I was this way actually when I was a player, is sometimes you disvalue the education portion of this, and maybe you would go to a school that doesn't really sync up with your long-term life goals. And I think it's important that the education portion is highly weighed, when you're making decisions, when you go to school, because there's a lot of really good hockey programs, and I think educating yourself on all the different levels. If you end up being an ACHA hockey player, it doesn't mean you're any less of a person than somebody that plays NCAA Division I. Ultimately, the goal is to play. You want to play at the highest level, and I'm not saying not to dream for that, but ultimately to get to play college hockey and get a degree is a great thing, and it's also something that really shows well with future employers. That if you can stick with something for 4 years while getting a top-notch education, especially if you can get into, a leadership portion of your hockey team, it says a lot about you within a piece of paper, and that's where sometimes we're all judged on one piece of paper. And, ultimately, I think it's important to kind of keep that. And for the parents, it can be very hard, because there's a lot of money obviously invested, but there's a lot of time invested. And I think being patient within this journey is very important. And ultimately understanding that no matter what level of hockey player your son or daughter, becomes, they're learning a lot of really good life lessons, whether they're on good teams, bad teams, teams in between. The game of hockey is a great tool to prepare you for life. And it's, there's been times where you feel like you've done everything right, whether it's as a player, as a coach, and you still come up short. And sometimes that's how life is, So I think it's important to always just keep that perspective, and ultimately you're building lifelong friendships within the game too, and that can't be discounted in my opinion, although I think it is a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree with so many good points to unpack there. I think for parents, being patient, super important. It's a long process. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But I think if you have the resources and your kid really wants it, I think absolutely supporting them is the right way to go, because that whole process does make not only a better hockey player but a better person overall. So I totally agree with that. I also agree with the other points that you mentioned there. I think prioritizing the education is huge. A lot of players, they like you said, they want to play at the highest college hockey level possible. But I think, yeah, yes, you do. But at the same time, first you want to play whatever program you're going to. You want to make sure that the coach likes you and that you want to play. But second, like, you can't discount the education. If you got one program that's kind of here and the other program that's there in hockey, but this one has the major that you really want, go with this one, if everything else makes sense. Because the last thing you want to do is kind of, be there for 4 years, not doing a major you really like, and kind of wandering around. You're kind of wasting your time at that point. So you really want to make sure
Absolutely.
that you prioritize it. So yeah, I totally agree with those points that you mentioned. Thanks again for your time. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think the audience here probably got a lot of helpful tips and advice from you. So I know every time I talk to you, I always get some helpful life advice too. So thanks again for your time, and we'll see you around at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, Braden. I'll call you soon. We'll catch up.
All
So,
right, sounds good.
all
Thank
right,
you.
see you, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Coach Mays. I know I always have a blast when I talk to him. He's always, a good presence and someone that's great to talk to. So I had a great time doing this. Hope you guys did as well. If you got any kind of value out of this video, if you enjoyed it, if you haven't already, absolutely smash that like button. And if you haven't already, or you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video here moving forward. And throughout this video, if you had any questions, anything you want to talk to us about or to Coach Mays about, feel free to drop a comment down below. And if it's addressed to Coach Mays, we'll relay that to him. Or you can even email us at info@ahadvising.com and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And all that said, that's it for the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on that next one.